Welcome back, students. As you know, we were seeing the slide about determinants of health, and we were talking about environment. In environment, we have further 3 points, which are internal environment, external environment, and microenvironment. Internal environment is basically the purview of curative medicine. So the doctors, as we know them, deal with the internal environment. External environment is the larger set of environment amongst which man is a small part of. What concerns to us most is the microenvironment. This is a new terminology that has come into play, which essentially means the immediate environment a human being is associated with, like the climate of his home, the air pollution indices in his surrounding. So this is the small set of universe that a person carries with him, that is the microenvironment. The next determinant of health is the lifestyle a person has. Lifestyle carries a lot of meanings for a lot of people, but basically lifestyle means the amenities and the facilities that we have at our disposal, which enable us to lead a life that we have. Next determinant of health is aging. Aging is, as all of you know, also physiologically it is called as senescence. So aging is a definitive determinant of health. Then gender, there are a lot of gender specific diseases which are occurring in males and females. You might have heard that in medicine, you might have heard that in surgery. So that also applies here. Then the more PSM specific or community medicine specific topic is the socio-economic conditions. This is usually our specialization. So you have in socio-economic conditions economic status, education, occupation, as well as the political system. Economic status has a direct bearing on the health status of the population. In fact, you might be very intrigued to know that the health map of the world very closely correlates the economic status of the world. So if you coincide two maps, one is of the health status and another is of the economic status, and you can see that the areas which are green are almost green equally on both the slides, and the areas which are red are red. So economic status is a very powerful indicator of health. At the same point of time, let me caution you that money is not everything. Money automatically cannot confer health. These examples would be the state of Kerala in India. Kerala in India is not very rich particularly, but the health status of Kerala is far more better than some of the very rich countries in the world. Okay, and this health status disparity is attributed to the high rate of female education that Kerala has. Okay, as Indira Gandhi had famously said, if you educate a man, you educate an individual, but if you educate a girl, you educate a family. So education has a direct bearing on the health status of an individual. That is about education. About occupation, cross-sectional studies have told us for decades together now that people who are highly educated, employed in higher levels of occupations are better off as compared to health parameters are concerned as compared to the people who are not so well placed in their occupations. Okay. Political system, just one line. Percentage of GDP the government spends on health tells you about the political commitment the government has towards health. So the more proportion of GDP the government spends on health, the more is the political commitment. That's all you need to know, and there's nothing more to it as far as political system is concerned for health. Okay, percentage of GDP. India was notorious that we spend a small percentage of our GDP on health. Nowadays, with the advent of National Rural Health Mission, the current government has increased the percentage GDP spending immensely on health. Although there is a little disparity between what percentage is spent, but it is definitely at par with the WHO recommendations. Health services, you have primary health care. Primary health care we'll be talking about in detail about primary health care, so you'll see that later. And obviously there are other determinants of health. Okay. Now, as we were talking about the definition of health, we also saw the pitfalls of the definition of health. Now, let's see how health is measured. We have two scales. One is objective and subjective. For those of you who still do not know what objective and subjective is when two people say something, there's no two ways about it. Okay, so you have a scale. You say that, okay, this length is 10 centimeter. Nobody can refute that. If 10 people measure the length, they'll all come to the same conclusion that okay, this piece of equipment is 10 centimeters. Okay, that is objective scale. There are no two ways about it. For subjective scale is like my girlfriend is more beautiful than yours. You may have a debate on that. Okay, so somebody says no, mine is, and you say mine is. So that is a subjective scale. So you cannot come to a common conclusion that okay, this is right or this is wrong. So that is subjective, and objective is there are no two ways about it. In objective, we have two further scales. One is called as standard of living, level of living. Let me tell you at this very point of time, essentially both of them are the same. Okay, standard of living was the older nomenclature. Level of living is what the UN uses. Okay, so essentially they are the same, one or two parameters here and there, but this is basically the same scale which was modified and adapted. So level of living is the scale that is now widely used. Going to the next slide, let us see first of all standard of living. If you still remember, this is a objective scale. These are the parameters which we consider in standard of living: expenditure, services we enjoy, level of education, employment status, food, dress, house, amusements, and comfort of living. I have a small bad news for you. Sometimes these are asked, but if you have to tax your memory, I'll recommend don't tax it with standard of living. Okay, if you have to tax your memory, tax it with the next slide, that is, as you can see on your computers, level of living. Level of living has 9 components, as you can see on your slide right now. It has health, food consumption, education, occupation and working conditions, housing, social security, clothing, recreation and leisure, as well as human rights. So this is a composite index which shows us level of living. Like I said, this is a parameter comparable to the standard of living. Quality of life. Quality of life is a subjective indicator. As you already know, subjective indicator is you may have a difference of opinion. Quality of life is something which exactly means what we say in day-to-day life. Say we ask our friend, what is your quality of life? And he says, my quality of life is very good. He may not be the richest guy of the class, he may not be the best looking guy in the class, but he says that the quality of my life is very good. As compared to somebody who's a rich spoiled brat, okay, has maybe a red Ferrari with his, he has got all the amenities that he should have, but still he says that his quality of life is not that good. I wish I had something or I did not have something. So that is quality of life. So what you know about quality of life in layman's term is very much what the quality of life means here. Okay, so quality of life is subjective. A lot of times this quality of life surveys throws up surprises in front of us in the form that countries we believe that quality of life would not be very good paradoxically show a good quality of life, and vice versa. One of the measure of quality of life is PQLI, which is also called as physical quality of life index. PQLI has 3 indicators, and they include infant mortality, life expectancy at age 1, and literacy. The scoring is done for PQLI from 0 to 100. Here I would like to tell you PQLI is important, tested multiple times, and is expected to come in the exam again and again. The good news is there is not a lot of indicators to learn here like the last slide. You just have 3 indicators: infant mortality, life expectancy at age 1, and literacy. Now as you can see, if you look at the points, it is written life expectancy at age 1. Why is it not life expectancy? By the way, when I say life expectancy, it usually means life expectancy at birth. Here I am specifying life expectancy at age 1. That is because it also separately includes infant mortality, and an infant is a child who is up to 1 year of age. So I have a separate parameter for that, therefore I am not including into the second parameter, infant mortality, life expectancy at age 1, and literacy. Again, if you see, money is not into consideration. Okay, so I have not taken the family income or GDP, GNP, nothing of that sort is in here. PQLI only has 3, which excludes money. Scoring is done from 0 to 100. 0 is absolutely defined worst performance, so the worst that can be there, and 100 is the absolutely defined best performance. Again, you have a Another scale, very useful scale, HDI. You might have heard about these in newspapers, TV shows. HDI is a composite index, shows where a country is ranked. So nowadays, if you have to talk about ranking of countries, we usually do it on the basis of HDI. HDI is Human Developmental Index. It is defined as a composite index combining indicators representing three dimensions, and those three dimensions are longevity, knowledge, and income. Income is calculated by GDP per capita in purchasing power. Okay, so this is also called as purchasing power parity. HDI values, unlike PQLI values, remember PQLI values from 0 to 100, HDI values are only from 0 to 1. So you have 0 as absolutely worst, 1 is absolutely best. HDI for India is, this is the latest HDI of India, we have an HDI of 0.547, and unfortunately India ranks 134th on the HDI scale. If you have to categorize this, HDI's countries are categorized as high, medium and low, and India falls right now in the middle category. India is in the middle category. These are the developing nations. Those who have a high HDI are the developed countries. Okay. So of the 174 countries for which HDI was constructed, 45 are high development category and 35 are in the low development category. So India comes in the middle development categories. This is expected to know that you know the HDI as well as the rank. Okay, this may be asked in a MCQ. Some miscellaneous indexes, not really important, but just for your knowledge sake, you have gender related development index and gender empowerment index. What matters of these indexes, I have already highlighted that in your slides, so you do not bang your head on that. GDI basically measures basic human development for gender. Obviously these are both for gender, males and females. So you are comparing the development of females as compared to males. So GDI measures the development of females in comparison to males in the fields of basic human development, and GEM compares female development in terms of economic and political opportunities. So if you see this slide, just look at the boldened fonts and you have the take home message. Okay. Last index is Human Poverty Index, which is exactly opposite of Human Development Index. Human Development Index measures your endowment. Human Poverty Index measures your deprivation. Coming to a small topic, responsibility of health. In layman's term, to make it very simple, health is everybody's responsibility, but primarily it is your responsibility. It is your responsibility to keep yourselves healthy. You can always say that it is state responsibility, it is international responsibility, or it is my community's responsibility, but health also is a individual responsibility. A small topic inside that larger topic is self-care in health. Self-care in health is defined as all those health generating activities that are undertaken by persons themselves in order to promote and preserve their own health. So you help yourself. Okay, that is the motto of self-care. Popular examples of self-care: hypertensives keeping the logbook of their blood pressures on a daily basis, diabetics keeping a logbook of their blood sugar on a daily basis by daily blood sugar monitoring tests. So these are the examples of self-care. For leprosy, microfilament testing of the foot for sensitivity, that is self-care. So this is in short, self-care includes all the activities that you do to take care of your own health. Indicators of health. Now we are starting to measure health. So these are the indicators of health which measure health. Right now I want to clarify, there are two things here which you usually confuse. One is indicator of health and other is an index of health. Okay, when I say indicator of health, remember, I am talking about a single number. I am talking about a single number. When I say index, it is also a single number, but it is a composite of multiple numbers. Say in this instance, it is a composite of A, B, and C. Okay, so indicator, one number. Index, composite of multiple numbers. If you remember the last slide, we talked about human developmental index. You get one number, you will get a number between 0 to 1, as we saw for HDI. You'll get one number, say you got 0.5, but this number was derived by A plus B plus C by 3. Okay, so we took a mean of 3 numbers and I gave you one number. This is an index. Okay, so this was an index. Indicator, you get just one number, say maternal mortality rate. Okay, one number, there's no indicator into it, there are no partitions into that number. So get this very clear. I'm telling you why, because sometimes the MCQ asks you clearly about a indicator and you start wasting your time on index and vice versa. So if you read the stem of the question very clearly and it mentions indicator on index, and in the options you see the other options, you can directly rule them out. So if you are asked an indicator, look for an indicator. If you are asked an index, look for an index. Okay, and you also know the difference now. So indicators of health should be valid. Valid means they should actually measure what they are supposed to measure. Okay, say for example, I wanted the height of 10 individuals. I sent you people, you went and you brought back weight. Okay, I can calculate the height from the weight. I can have an approximation because they're in association. But did you exactly count what I wanted? No. So the measures are not valid. So that is validity. You do what is said. Okay, you bring me parameters which I want. That is validity. Reliable and objective. In simpler terms, what we understand is reproducibility. Reproducibility means you do an experiment, your friend does an experiment, you have both the same results. Okay, so that is reliability. Somebody in Japan does the same experiment, same result. In China, same result. So all the world over, we do an experiment, we get the same result. That is reliability. Sensitivity and specificity we are going to talk about at length. Just in brief, sensitivity, small changes in the scenario triggers an event. Specificity, changes in only that particular scenario triggers the specificity scale. So this is sensitivity and specificity. Sensitivity means sensitive to a particular thing. Specificity means specific to that particular thing, nothing else. Okay. Feasible, obviously the study should be feasible. I cannot do a study which commands millions of dollars, because if I have thousands of rupees, I cannot do a very large scale study. It must be humanly possible. Okay, so that is feasibility, and relevance should contribute to the understanding of the problem at hand. Again, a slide to scare you a bit. These are a lot of indicators that we have at hand. I'll just read them out. Mortality indicators, morbidity indicators, disability rates, nutritional status indicators, healthcare delivery indicators, utilization rates, indicators of social and mental health, environmental indicators, socio-economic indicators, health policy indicators, indicators of quality of life. Okay, we'll not be going through each of these indicators because that would be a sheer waste of time. We'll just see the important indicators and what their implications are. Okay, important disability rates, again highly tested area amongst the indicators. Many a times you will have one or the other MCQs coming on this. One is Sullivan's index. Sullivan's index is computed by subtracting the life expectancy, probable duration of bed, disability and inability to perform major activities. So basically Sullivan's index says how long in your life have you been productive, have you been out of the bed, out and working. So how long have you been healthy, in short is Sullivan's index. This is a fairly advanced index, fairly new and widely used. Sullivan's index. Next is HALE. HALE is health adjusted life expectancy, very similar to Sullivan's index. It measures the number of years in full health that a newborn can expect to live based upon the current rates of ill health and mortality. So you have a HALE when a child is born. So I have a forecast, so to say. When a child is born, I already know what the HALE is because I know the mortality and morbidity patterns of the country. So it is a best estimate of how long the child will live a healthy life. DALY is disability adjusted life years. DALY is exact opposite of HALY, HALY. It simply means one daily lost is 1 year lost of healthy life. So that is in brief what daily means. Levels of healthcare. Now we are shifting from one topic to another. We are starting a new topic, what is known as levels of healthcare. As you know, healthcare is delivered on multiple levels. You have primary healthcare, you have secondary healthcare, you have tertiary healthcare. So now we'll be starting that topic, the arrangement of healthcare on different levels. First of all, first and foremost, the most important, the level that matters in the examination and the level that matters to you at this point is primary health care. Okay, so the grassroots level healthcare is basically known as the primary health care. Primary health care is the level at which essential health care is given. Again, primary health care is provided. We will see what the definition of primary health care is. A majority of prevailing health conditions and problems that can be satisfactorily dealt with at this level. Now here I want to focus your attention on another problem that we currently have and which is very rampant. In this setup of primary healthcare, secondary healthcare and tertiary healthcare, we want majority of the patients, because as it is written, majority of the conditions can satisfactorily be treated at primary healthcare level. We want these conditions to be treated at primary healthcare level. Unfortunately, with India, what is happening is decentralization is not working. Say for example, I draw a bigger circle. This is, say, primary healthcare. Let me write here PHC. Okay, primary healthcare level. I have a second circle which is the secondary level of health. We will see what that is. And I have a tertiary healthcare level. Now I want the area of these circles represent the number of patients that should be attributed to these circumstances. So the largest share should be taken by the PHC, smaller share should be taken by the secondary, and smallest should be taken by the tertiary. So all the complicated cases, transplants, renal failures, those kinds of super specialty cases should go here. What is happening with us is that we are not very good at decentralization. What is happening is that a lot of patients who should have been filtered out at PHC level go to the secondary level, and a lot of them go directly to the tertiary level. So the decentralization, as this is called as, decentralization means throwing patient load into the periphery, is not working. So these arrows are failing. That is why there is a very high load at the tertiary level institutions. Okay. Ideally, what should happen is, as the definition will also state, most of the healthcare problems should be taken care of at the periphery, at the primary healthcare level only. Secondary healthcare is curative services that is provided by district hospitals and community health centers. Secondary healthcare level serves as the first referral in healthcare system. Say for example, you have a lady who comes to you in labor and you see that there is CPD, cephalopelvic disproportion. So what do? You think that this is not a delivery that I can handle at a PHC level, so you refer it to a secondary health center. So at that point, it is good to refer these patients here. Okay, so this arrow is then valid. Okay, you are referring to a higher center. If it is a normal labor and the lady is going to a tertiary care center, that is not good. Okay, so secondary health care center is the curative thing that you have everywhere. It is the first referral for primary healthcare people. Tertiary healthcare, as I told you, is super specialty care, complicated services, dialysis, transplants, implants, stuff like that. Also planning and management function. Obviously these are executive functions handled at higher levels and higher functional bodies. The all important definition of primary healthcare. I cannot emphasize the importance of this definition much. So please have a look at the slide and try to learn this definition. Very, very important. Primary healthcare definition is defined as essential healthcare based on practical, scientifically sound and socially acceptable methods and technology made universally accessible to individuals and families in the community through their full participation and at a cost that a community and a country can afford to maintain at every stage of their development in the spirit of self-determination. I tried 3 years to learn this definition during my MD. I could not, but I know the important points. So at least remember the important points so that you know what PHC actually means. Okay, primary healthcare actually means. Based upon the principles, these are the principles on which primary healthcare is based: social equity, nationwide coverage, self-reliance, intersectoral coordination, and people's involvement. Just to give you a brief idea of what these things mean, social equity is, say, poor people, middle class people, upper middle class, rich, everybody has access to the healthcare. That is social equity. Nationwide coverage should be present everywhere. In fact, for health, as we have discussed, it should be international coverage. I cannot accept that Americas and Canadas have better healthcare as compared to India. Okay, so Indians also have equal right to good health as the Western countries. So obviously, on a national scale, we have a nationwide strategy. We want everybody to have a good health. Self-reliance. Self-reliance is important. Self-reliance means you rely on your own technology, your own resources, your own people and your own manpower for your own health. Okay, so self-reliance. Intersectoral coordination is obvious. You need money. You don't just need doctors, you need money. You need pharmacists, you need nursing staff, you need Anganwadi workers. All these are, say, building blocks of health of the nation. So it requires intersectoral coordination and obviously people's involvement. If I want to get rid of the disease, the people should also be interested in getting rid of that disease. If people somehow want the disease, there is no fun in trying on my side to get rid of the disease, because that is not going to happen. So people should be involved in what we as healthcare workers are trying to do. This approach is aptly named as health by the people and placing people's health in people's hand. That means people take care of their own health.